Randomness on-chain is a problem because of the nature of blockchain that is distributed. They kind of do some ceremony, well, like algorithmic ceremony. If you win, you get times 3 your base airdrop. If you lose, well, you lose.
Then you get nothing.
Then you get nothing. Then you hate Nois.
Okay. Hello, guys.
Hey, how are you?
Good. How are you?
Nice, very nice. Actually, a bit tired from the conference, but it's really nice to see all the people. Like, you kind of get to match every person with a profile picture that they have on Twitter. So it's really nice. Thank you, by the way, for the invite. It's really cool. Like, to get the opportunity to speak about Nois, give some clarification about some stuff. Some people like see Nois on Twitter, but they don't know what it's all about. So it's really cool. Also, a lot of people in the conference said, "Oh, we really like the design of
nice.
the logo." So I was like, "Oh yeah, Design DAO." So thank you.
Awesome. Yeah, thanks for being here and talking about Nois. Let's get into it right away. What is Nois, and why did you even came up with that?
So Nois is pretty much a layer 1 blockchain that gives a random beacon, so pretty much random number, to the rest of the IBC blockchains. So it doesn't matter if it's Cosmos or any other chain that needs random numbers. And one of the properties of the randomness is that it's unpredictable and unbiased. So that's a good property to have, because randomness on chain is a problem because of the nature of blockchain that is distributed. So you have multiple computers, and then if these computers, they need to have at all time the same state. But if you just use regular random numbers, like just like use a Python library like a Rand, and then every computer, every node or validator on this chain just generates their own random number, the problem is that they will not agree on the same thing. And then you have, like, the chain would halt because it's not the same state. So. And
how do you guys solve that?
Yeah, so of course, you can solve this problem with giving some seed, for example. So all these nodes would come up with the same number, but then you need to distribute somehow that seed. And then if you distribute that seed, then it's kind of like a predictable thing. So it doesn't make, well, it could still be useful, but not for a lot of use cases like gambling and all that, because it's predictable. So the way we solve it, actually, we rely on another network. It's not a blockchain. It's called DRAND. And that's a consortium of multiple institutions, universities, and companies, such like Cloudflare. With this DRAND protocol, they kind of do some ceremony, well, like algorithmic ceremony, where they distribute some keys, and then with these keys they all sign like they do a BLS signature, it's called. So pretty much it's like they have a shared public key, so the same key, and then once they reach a specific threshold of signatures, they get to sign a message, and that message is pretty much the base of that randomness that we bring. So basically, you need to have more than 50% of these nodes or companies or institutions to be corrupt to kind of, if you want to hack that randomness. So we pretty much rely on that. We bring that randomness on chain, on Nois. We verify it once, and then we distribute it across IBC to the rest of the IBC chains.
And why did you even come up with that idea in the first place?
Yeah, so before doing Nois, I was like co-founding a casino on Terra. It was like a work for like a year and a half. We had like 12 engineers working on the thing, and then at some point we were on the week of the launch, actually, which is pretty sad. Terra collapsed. But one thing I'm happy about is that it collapsed right before we start any ICO. And then we lost ourselves, but we didn't have any liabilities, so nobody kind of bought into the thing. So that's a good thing. And then one of the most interesting things doing this project for me was the randomness, because it was a lot of work to get the thing right. From the DApp perspective, there needed to be a lot of considerations to make things safe. From the DApp perspective, we used Terrand. It's like a smart contracts on Terra that uses kind of like the same thing that Nois does. but we realized that it was not ideal. So pretty much this Terrand is kind of like the ancestor of Nois. It was developed by a guy called Anthony, who's now co-founder of Nois as well, and Simon from Confio, who's also a co-founder of Nois. Yeah, and one of the challenges with that Terrand was that it's like computationally heavy to verify on chain, such that when a chain grows like Terra, it was so expensive for the gas, because you have to compete in block space with other smart contracts, like with everything, Anchor, Mirror, and all the protocols on Terra, that every time you try to submit any randomness, it costs just like $1 in gas fees. And then if you want to make sure you have multiple bots that submit the randomness, then you're going to have like $5-6 per randomness. And if you get one randomness every 3 seconds, then it's gonna be like a lot of money. So yeah, the idea of making a chain that where you optimize your block space around randomness, you make sure that you have incentivized bots that bring randomness, and you verify it only once. So you do that calculation, the computation only once, and then sending over with IBC is cheap. So even for chains that are very heavy in block space, they don't have to pay much in gas.
Because everything happens on the Nois chain, right?
Exactly.
And what does verification in that context mean?
The verification means that, so we have the public key. Everybody knows the public key of the DRAND network. And because all the nodes on DRAND, they sign together that public key. So there is some elliptic curve algorithms that help us check with that public key that the randomness is actually coming from DRAND. So the bots there, we have bots that bring randomness from DRAND to Nois. We don't really have to trust them. We need to have them available. It's kind of like a relayer on IBC. Like if they're not there, the randomness is not available, but they can't change anything to it because we verify it on chain anyways. So we need to make sure that we incentivize at least a few of them to make sure that, they're always there, and not incentivize just the fastest one. And then the day they're out, well, you're pretty much useless as a chain.
And are there any plans from your side to also do stuff on the Nois chain besides of just randomness?
Well, there are also, for now, we want to focus these, at least this quarter, we want to focus still on making sure that the documentation is more clear. We want to focus on making people aware of how randomness is working and everything. But we for sure have plans for, there is the idea now that we're thinking about, and we are kind of like planning on implementing, is time lock encryption. This is pretty much, let's say you have a message that you want to put on chain, but you don't want to reveal it. So you can encrypt it, put it encrypted on chain, and then at a certain point that you decide, it gets revealed to everybody else. And that's also going to be using DRAND. The reason we're going with a time lock encryption is because we have all the infrastructure needed for that. We have all the smart contracts are made in a way to be able to accommodate with not so much change for that. So yeah, that's probably going to be the next thing. We'll also have some more ideas like boiling, but one thing for sure is that Nois would always be a chain that serves developers. We try to provide APIs or things that developers would need for their DApp. We don't think we would be one day doing anything that just regular end
launching
user.
A DEX.
Launching a DEX, for example. We try to leave the best people we do our thing, and then leave devs who are good at making things, financial things, DeFi and all, do that. We just provide the tools, and then we don't know much things you could do with them, but we'd like to be surprised with what devs would do with that.
And that's also my question. Why do projects even need randomness? I mean, for gambling, like in a sense of you want to provide some like random winner of a game, right? Or a winner of a lottery or something like that. But what else do you guys think is possible or is already in the works?
So basically, gambling is indeed the biggest industry and the most straightforward thing to think about, because that's what most dApps nowadays are doing, gambling in lotteries. But like we have like the vision and some partnerships with a lot of well, not a lot, but like a few dApps that are already. For example, Stargaze is doing now shuffling, but random shuffling of items to mint NFTs. I think this is what they're maybe Stargaze people will be like, no, this is shuffle. This is just random minting, but something with NFTs to mint them in a random way. But because you don't want people to know in advance how this NFT is going to look like, because then you could say, oh, I will not mint it because it's not going to be worth it. Or, so you don't want to game the system, so you can use that. But there are also other use cases like governance, for example. DAO is thinking, for example, of doing some election with some selection of people, and then you select from those randomly. So that's also like a thing. There's also in DeFi, you can have some, like in some liquidation things, you can have some premium pools, and then you want to select randomly from who's gonna get that liquidation from there.
Paid out?
Yeah.
Is it somebody who gets paid out by...
Exactly. Somebody who buys some collateral that is, for example, needs to be liquidated, and then you have many people having the same fighting to get that with a cheaper price. But I think the long-term use case that I would like the most is things where you need to do checks as a government or as an institution. You need to make checks, but you don't have the performance or capacity to do all those checks. Like, for example, imagine you're a state, you're a government, or you're the tax ministry or whatever, and then you need to check companies, do some checks for companies at the end of the year, but you cannot check all of them because, you don't have the human resources or the money to do so. So you say, okay, we're gonna check 1,000 companies randomly. But then how do you really prove that your choice was really random and you're not targeting some competitor or some whatever business just because you don't like them? So you need a way to say, okay, look, we did this randomness, and there is no way that we could have biased it. There is no way that we could have predicted that it was you, but we're gonna check you. So it's something that helps for transparency. Actually, Filecoin uses this kind of randomness from DRAND actually to do this kind of thing. So basically, Filecoin is just some incentivization or system on top of IPFS. And then as a node, you need to prove that you're possessing or you're holding some data. Yeah, and then the protocol checks every now and then on random people that they possess a specific block. If the randomness was predictable, then I would calculate, oh, I know in 2 days they're gonna check me for this block. Let me just download this block. Thank you very much.
And not hold the rest.
Yeah, and then not hold the rest. So that's, I think, a very interesting use case for randomness.
And what about gaming? Like not gambling, but more like traditional or Web3 gaming? Does it make sense there too? Like with loot boxes or something?
I think, yeah, definitely. That's like, I forgot about this use case, but definitely like it's really like if you say, okay, I want to develop Monopoly, for example, like an on-chain Monopoly with real money, like you put the bank, that's real money. People have, it's nice game because it's all public. Like we all see how much money everybody has. But then if you roll the dice, you want something unpredictable, and there is something at stake. So it's important to have unpredictable, but also publicly verifiable randomness. And then it's really like, this is a game. I'm sure that most of the games need randomness because that provides a surprise, that provides, but yeah, definitely gaming is really a big industry for randomness.
Let's say projects are interested in that. Where would they start to look? Like, how can they try out Nois?
So if you're a dApp, I think you should check the chain you're on if it's already integrated with Nois. To pull, then you have like just a Nois proxy. It's just a contract on your chain, and then you can pull from them. But if your chain doesn't have it, then you can do it yourself. It's just a permissionless thing. You go to the Nois repo, and then you pull okay, like you have a documentation that shows you all this. So we have a section for developers, how to develop with Nois, how to include the randomness, how to request it, blah, blah, blah. We have also another, the same docs, some section for chains who want to integrate the randomness. But as a dev, you could also just put it yourself. The good part of it is that you can just, it's just permissionless. So there is no need to kind of have Nois governance permission to get randomness for your project. So I would say docs.nois.network. That's the place to go.
And for protocols that want to like implement that, does it apply only to Cosmos blockchains or only Cosmos chains, or what kind of protocol can use Nois?
So for the chains that need to use Nois, I think until now we have two prerequisites. One is that it's IBC enabled, and the second is that it has Cosmosm. Yeah, these are the two. Maybe in the future we would allow chains that without Cosmosm, but we don't have plans yet for that. So for now, it's just IBC and Cosmosm.
Yeah, something like a lot of people are excited about is also the Randdrop. So as far as I understand it, it's an airdrop, but random, correct?
Yeah, that's correct.
So what's the idea behind that, and why are you guys doing that?
Yeah, well, that's a good question. So the main reason I think there are two reasons we're doing the Randdrop. One is to distribute the token because we want a lot of people and we just want to distribute the token. The second is we want to showcase one use case of Nois. And I think the best way to do it is just to bring a novel idea of airdropping. I like the Randdrop idea because a lot of times you get some airdrop from a project and then the amount is so small that it's not even worth it to claim it. So I think it could be a good idea to distribute to a bit less people, but everybody is pre-eligible. And then you get to give them a bigger amount. But also it's just like a surprise thing. And then you click and then you wait for randomness. And then I think it's a cool idea. Now we're going to do it on 4 chains to start with. So Juno, Aura, Stargaze, and Injective. It is not, we didn't start it yet. A lot of people in the conference were asking me, oh, how do I claim the airdrop? But I think it was a confusion because we published at some point the Randdrop is on testnet. So you can claim it on testnet, but some people thought it was actually on mainnet. But yeah, we're still finalizing some of the stuff. So yeah, that's pretty much it. But the Randdrop itself, how it works is simply we put a Randdrop contract on a chain that we want to airdrop to, and then we need to have a Nois proxy on that chain. The Randdrop contract works with Merkleized trees. Maybe not worth going into the details how Merkle trees work, but in essence, a user comes and then they provide a proof of being in the snapshot. The proof obviously is just on the front end side, so the user just clicks a button
and connects their wallet.
Yeah, just participate, like a button, for example. And then when they click on the participate, the Randdrop contract goes, asks for randomness from the proxy. The proxy does the IBC magic, blah blah blah. The DRand comes in, the DRand randomness. It's verified and it's sent to the Randdrop contract as a callback. And the randomness contract does some simple, I'd say like seed probability on making it a third of chance. So you have a third of chance of winning. If you win, you get ×3 your base airdrop. If you lose, well, you lose.
Then you get nothing.
Then you get nothing. Then you hate Nois.
But you're like, I think most people are eligible on multiple chains, right?
Yeah.
So does it mean that technically, if I'm on all 3 chains,
you have more chances to win.
Yeah,
then.
okay.
Yeah. And then you could win on 2, you could win on the 4 of them, or you can win on none. So yeah.
Let's talk about some stuff that's already working.
Yeah, well, there are a lot of projects that contacted us and that's on the work. So some of them don't really want to be revealed for some reason, so we cannot say those. But for the ones that are public, there's Stargaze. There's Injective. Actually, a couple weeks ago, we made the governance proposal. It passed. So now the Nois proxy is on mainnet Injective. Some also devs on Injective are actively asking us for help on how to request the randomness, if relayers are there, blah, blah, blah. There's also Aura. Yesterday, Long on this presentation showed like they're already using some roulette with Nois for the Vietnamese and Indonesian market. So that's pretty cool. Juno, I think there's Gelato. Yeah, so these are at least the ones that are connecting on mainnet. On testnet, there's plenty. Some of them we don't know. We see the traffic, like some traffic, but we can't really know which project it is because we just like, I mean, the nice part is that it's permissionless, so we don't have to have a say on, okay, you like, for example, when yesterday Aura said, oh, we're doing the roulette, we didn't know they were doing the roulette, so which is nice.
Yeah, I mean, that's the whole purpose of blockchains to some degree, right?
Yeah. Well, another thing maybe I would like to clarify, because a lot of people are like, okay, you provide randomness, but how can you make this chain sustainable? Like, it's like, what are you? Thank you for randomness, but how are you gonna, make your validators and the investors happy? Well, I think it's one of the most easy business models for Nois. It's like a grocery store. You buy randomness, you pay money one by one. So pretty much when you, as a dApp, you request randomness, you pay 50 Nois, and then you get the beacon. If you don't pay, then the beacon doesn't come. And it's very, so that would make a pressure on the token to go up because there is demand. So if there is demand, the token will go up. If there is none, then, well.
So it's directly correlated to how useful randomness is.
Exactly,
for chains, right?
and how it's correlated with, how many people are using Nois pretty much.
You answered all my questions, to be honest.
Cool.
Like my biggest point was, what was in my head was really like what is it actually useful for? You clarified that.
And I'm sure my answer is not complete, because like every time I meet with people and then they tell me, oh, actually randomness is also for this. I'm like, oh yeah. Like it's funny because you can't think of all the possibilities. Like if you're a factory that makes wood, for example, you don't really know, oh, this guy's gonna make a table, but you don't know if they can make many things with it. So that's actually Injective. This is another use case. Injective last year they made in the not Hackwasm.
I think it was Hackwasm too.
Okay. So they made the Noisical, this product. It just uses Nois for price feed. So the idea is that if you can get price oracle from, let's say, Yahoo Finance or Google, but then you need to trust that if you grow big enough, then Google can change the price of Bitcoin. They put it to $1. They buy it for you for $1, and then raise the price back, and then you're pretty much they drain your Bitcoin pretty much. But well, the idea is you can then grow the number of APIs you pull from, and then you do some mathematical median or whatever. But then even if you put 5, Yahoo Finance, Google, all those, some of them, then they can all agree on you and then also drain you. Yep. So the idea could be you bring 10,000 APIs, but the problem there is that if you bring 10,000 APIs, then it's very hard to put them all on chain within a small amount of time, and then also the state of the chain would become very big, and performance-wise, it's not doable. So what you can do is get 10,000 and then randomly select, and then when you randomly select, you get that safety of 10,000, but the performance of 5, which is, I think, what they did last year. So I like that use case as well.
And do you have any plans to collect these use cases somewhere so people can explore them?
I haven't thought about the idea, but that's a good idea.
I have the feeling like people ask that all the time. Like, what can they? I mean, not all the time, but every time you tell people about Nois, it's like, okay, but why?
Yeah, that's true. Actually, it makes a lot of sense. I think we need to add a section in documentation, at least, where you list all the use cases, and then so people can come and say, oh, nobody thought about this idea. Then I can put it, or at least nobody thought about this idea. So maybe it makes sense of me not to add it, but to make a project that has that. So yeah, I think it makes a lot of sense.
Nice. And one more personal question would be like, what did you do before the Terra Gambling project?
I was out of crypto. I was working in a bank, a major European bank. So I was in the investment platform doing DevOps. So yeah, doing DevOps, also dev, full stack with some, I was doing some projects as well with AI it's completely not in the crypto space, but pretty much before that, I was working at a company that does deep learning with lung cancer scans. So our customers are hospitals. And then what we do is people do scans in the hospital, and then it comes to our AI engine. We analyze if there is lung cancer or no. Then we send to the radiologist a report, and then they base their stuff on there. So it was pretty cool. I think we were doing like a couple million scans a year. It's nice.
So it actually works.
Yeah.
Nice.
It actually, it went quite good that when we had downtime, radiologists decide they don't proceed with even though they can do it themselves because they're used to do it themselves. They say, okay, let's wait for the result of the AI to decide. So it was actually pretty cool. It just, the reason I left is because the company, I entered the company, I was the only one doing the platform there in DevOps. And then the team was 10 people. The whole company was like 100 people. I'm like, no, this is too much for me, too much overhead. So I like when it's smaller team. So.
And what was your way into crypto in general, or like into Terra back then?
Well, for crypto, just crypto, I was trading stuff randomly, like around 2016, 2017. But then it was just not really knowing what I was doing. I was like, let me try this and then lose money, and then, let me try again, and then lose again. But I think 2020, like a colleague of mine was like, let me show you this protocol, Anchor protocol, that you put money and then you get 20%. I was like, no, there's no way. And then I was like, no.
That can't be
you need somewhere to put the money because this is clearly a scam. Well, long story short, I fell in the scam. So I went in skeptical and then left scam. No, I don't think it's a scam. I think it was an experiment, a nice one. I really don't regret, even though I lost a lot of time developing, but also money. But I think it's a really nice experiment that I learned personally a lot from it. So thanks Duquan.
but you similar to me, you stayed in the interchain space basically.
Exactly. Yeah.
Nice. I mean, I'm out of questions, to be honest. Thanks for the intro to Nois.
Thank you for inviting me.
Is there anything you want to bring up?
No, actually, except from one thing. So I heard a lot of people were like, the price of Nois, Nois is really cool, but the price is a bit expensive for randomness, 1.5 Juno. But for one beacon. But I think it's because we did not maybe communicate that well. So the price, when we put a proxy on Nois, the proxy does not belong to Nois or Nois team or Nois chain. The proxy just belongs to anybody. As a Nois team, we were like, okay, we're gonna instantiate one proxy to show how people can instantiate the proxy. And then we set the price randomly, or we were like, whatever, just put 1.5 Juno and 50 Nois. So the proxy, anybody can put it. And then those fees, those prices that you put on the proxy, they actually will go to the proxy manager or the person who made the proxy. So you can even offer randomness for free as a proxy. But from the other side, as a proxy, you need to pay 50 Nois to Nois. Mm-hmm. So that's the only thing we don't care how you manage the proxy. The chain just cares that it has the necessary funds in Nois paid by the proxy. Mm-hmm. So yeah, that's.
And are those proxies selected randomly? So how can I make sure that I get one that is cheap?
Okay, so proxies are smart contracts deployed on a specific chain. So for example, on Juno, there is one proxy, I think, Gelato and Word proxy from Nois team. But when you instantiate your DApp contract, you give it a proxy address. So you can use the proxy that you want. And if you think they're all expensive, you can just instantiate one with the prices you like. The reason why we're giving many prices is because we want to offer the possibility to proxy, so for dApps, to use a native currency instead of using an IBC Nois, so they don't have to go and buy Nois. But in general, you can always, if you buy 50 Nois, then you can use that to get the randomness.
So it completely works for outside chains without spending noise.
Yeah, exactly.
For the users.
For the users, yeah, exactly, yeah. But how it works, like more technically, is that every time you connect a noise proxy to the noise gateway, which is the smart contract on the other side of the bridge, so on the noise chain. Every time you do an IBC channel you create the IBC channel. What happens is that there's a contract that gets created, instantiated on Nois, that corresponds to this specific proxy. And that account is simply just almost like a bank account. It's a contract, but the idea is that you need to make sure that you always have this account filled with Nois. And then whenever this proxy requests randomness, that contract gets debited those 50 Nois. So even if you don't, let's say, want to bother with all your proxy sending money, blah, 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 you can go to that contract, your bank balance sheet on Nois, you fill it with native Nois, and then you can request randomness for free.
And your users don't have to care about anything.
Your users don't have to care. Actually, for the user, all they have to do is just execute message to the Nois proxy and say, give me the next randomness, or give me randomness after a specific timestamp, like tomorrow or something. That's all. So for the user is like the advantage of this outpost. We call it Nois proxy because before this outpost becomes fancy. But the whole idea is to abstract away all these problems from the developer. So developers just give me randomness. That's all.
But for users, like let's say I'm using Stargaze to mint something, for example, then the user of that chain does not come in contact with the Nois chain, right?
No, the user, indeed, they don't come across Nois chain. Well, Nois is going to be solicited in the background, but the user doesn't know. Nois doesn't know anything. The user says, oh, mint NFT, and then you get something like, oh, loading NFT. Then here you go. Or they open a box or whatever and then just loads. But the whole thing does, the developer needs to know that there is a Nois proxy that you can call get randomness. The user needs to know there is a button to click to mint. And Nois chain just does the rest.
Cool. Yeah, I would say then let's wrap it up. Thanks for the intro to Nois. I'm super interested to see what people will do with it, because it seems to be like initially I thought it's like, oh, randomness, who needs that? But now I'm like, after talking to you guys for like a couple months now, I have the feeling that's really something really cool that can create a lot of nice projects on
Nois projects.
Nois projects on Cosmos. Yeah, thanks for being here.
Thank you very much for inviting, and also thank you for contributing to Nois as well.
And yeah, see you.
Yeah,
soon.
Thank you.